Hey, this is my latest altered book, and usually I make and post a flip through that is pretty quick and is just meant to make the book look pretty. But I thought that I would do a longer flip through with a commentary about some of the aspects of the pages and the process, and maybe that will help inspire you a little. It's from a vintage book called The Autobiography of a Missionary Box, and I'm not quite sure what that is, but this chap here is holding a little money box, so I'm assuming it's where they took contributions for the missionary field. And because he's got a money box, I thought I would add this little ring of keys. They are some that I got in France on a little key ring here. And they are just attached to the first page. This is the original book plate. It says Berry Island Forward Movement Sunday School. It's from 1904. And this is the kind of humorless, sanctimonious book that they liked to give away in Sunday schools at the turn of the century. And so that's what the book plate says it is, a Sunday school gift. This lady is from an engraving in a book of poetry from 1897. And I cut it out, and I'd like to just point out here that I added her to the bottom of the book plate so that the piece itself is more or less framed in that book plate, rather than her floating off into some other part of it. I did want these two pages to hold together as one layout and not page. So I went across it. This is some old text from a French nature guide, and I just rough tore it asymmetrically and added it as a kind of a mid-page border to hold the piece together. And these guys are contemporary. As is this lady. Sometimes I find old art books at flea markets or thrift stores, and I like to cut them up and use the images. She also has a little bit of handwritten fragment back here for interest. This is from a book, a calendar of the Royal Horticultural Society. And I think I got it online for a couple of pounds. And I mentioned this because if you have something like that, if you want to buy old calendars of gardening groups or bird watching groups, you can get a lot of images very cheap. And that is a good way to get some really striking, dramatic images for your collage and mixed media. Here is a pocket on this page that I made using the pages of the book. See, I tore off about an inch of a couple of pages, and then I glued them here and here to some more pages, making a pocket organically out of the pages themselves. Inside of it is an old postcard from 1851. It's pretty damaged, so I added these little elements to just give a little interest to the eye, along with the distressed handwritten bits. It's postmarked London. A lot of what I do in making altered books, and something that I will be addressing in a future video, is mending them. Because when you're working with a piece that's already old, and then you're tearing out pages, you're gluing together pages, you're adding bulky elements and painting and liquid elements, inevitably some of your bindings are going to hate you and just pull apart. So what I've done here is to try to hold it together using, in this case, a tea bag. And I put the tea bag across and folded it and let it dry, and now it's got sort of a band-aid there. Also, I like the way tea bags look in a layout. These are two vintage postcards, handwritten. He's from a book of a bird and nature guide from 1912. I got that at a thrift store. Got lucky that day. She is from a cabinet photo. There's a lot going on here with a beautiful ring and furbelows and lace at her wrist. I'm going to say from this costume, this is about 1900. Again, I have made pockets by gluing down 3 of the edges of a postcard, leaving the edge on the outside open. And then I can put some little treasure in there. This is a celluloid card. It says Thoughts. And it is signed from Best to Jack. And the bunch I got with this were from around 1907, 1905. Over here is a calling card. And back in the day, if you gave out a calling card, you would fold down, or could fold down one of the corners, and it was sending a message to the person receiving the calling card. It was like a little code. And I don't know what this one indicates. I'll have to go look that up. But it's got a little angel there. Also in this pocket is another calling card. It says Ever Faithful. And if you very gently lift up the top of these cards like this one has the lady's name, which is Margie Christ. So, another flower from the calendar I mentioned. This is, I've made a frame, again, using the pages from the book itself. And inside is a tintype from the 1860s. And this dapper young guy has a watch chain and a waistcoat that's buttoned up. It's a great costume there. Let's have a look at that. Now, to make this irregular frame, I took several pages like this. And I just hand tore. Then I went to the next layer and hand tore one a little bit smaller and a little bit smaller, so that you've got this graduated layers and a lot of different things showing through. And I've done the same here. This map is from 1905. It is from a Cook's Tourist Guide to Switzerland, and it also contains a lot of old maps of places around Switzerland, like Italy. So this is a map of Naples, of Napoli and Sorrento. Again, I got lucky. This was very cheap at a flea market. The maps are just beautiful. They're old. I love old maps because we just don't have things like that anymore, and they're so evocative of wandering and curiosity about another place. She is from a cabinet card, from her costume, I would say the 1920s. And I've placed her here. Usually I like my images to look in, again, to hold pages together. But her look is so wistful and so poignant that I actually liked it looking out, because there's some mystery. We don't really know what she's gazing at, but she's very thoughtful about it. So that's part of how you place figures on a page, to tell a story, to make a narrative. Same thing, this guy is looking at her, looking at something. So there's a story there, and you, as the viewer, have to tell me what it is. To hold this page together, I used, this is an old, it's sort of an invoice. It would be if you made a payment on, say, your mortgage, and they would give you this to indicate that you had paid. It's from 1905, and it's French, and there's some handwritten aspects here. When I have critters in a layout, I like to find a place for them to sit on that is organic in the picture. as a framing device as well. This quittance already had a stamp, and so I made this blackbird stand on that like it's a little box or a perch. Again, the blackbird and the bat came from the field guide that I got at the thrift store, and the engravings are just really dramatic. She's from a small cabinet card, almost like a carte de visite, and she's got button boots. She's reading a book, which makes her very special to me. And she's from about the 1890s. Now, on this page, I just want to tell you that I have a longer video, also if you check on YouTube, my channel, that shows you more about how I made this specific layout. And I talk about that in detail. So go look for that if you're curious. This is from an old guide, Goldsmith's Nature, Animated Nature, I think. And this one is from the 1840s, which is why it's black and white instead of color. And sometimes I often get compliments on my engravings, but I also get a few people who are mortified that I would cut them up. Again, this was from 1845, and this page was in terrible condition all around what you see here. It was torn, it was stained. So, in fact, I did not desecrate that book or that engraving. In fact, I saved it so that I could use it in a new piece and give it a new life. Because you could not have even framed the old one, but I cut around all that. Over here is a vintage cigarette card, a French holy card. It says, "We rest in hope." And over here, a French calling card. And it says, "Ne m'oublie pas," do not forget me. And if you're very careful, again, these were meant to be lifted, and it says in French, "I think of you." So, here are two more pockets. Like the previous one, this is made by taking a few pages of the book itself and then gluing on the borders, leaving the top border open and unglued so that this is now a sleeve. To that, I added, these are fairly contemporary, from a butterfly guide, and just took the page, found a page where they had some butterflies towards the bottom and was able to cut round them and make this into another little pocket. Finally, we have another cabinet card, and I have a lot of cabinet cards, but this is the first one that I have ever found where a lady brought her cat to a portrait sitting. So I love that. And if you love cats, pay attention. These guys are from the 1950s. They're not that old. They're from a guide of drawings of mammals by Audubon. And they are sitting on another fragment of a handwritten French document. And I have inked up all the edges everywhere. Please let me know if you have any questions about how I did this, and I will address it in an upcoming how-to video. And just let me know if you have any comments. If you'd like to see still photos and close-ups, please go to the listing in the comments down here and check out the photos on my website. And you can also see where it's for sale there. Now you've got some new ideas, so I want you to get up and go make something. Bye.